This is CBC Vancouver News.
As you all know, it's been a roller coaster of a ride this past week for us.
First banned, then allowed to march in Vancouver's Lunar New Year parade after all. But two community groups say they're still waiting for an apology from organizers.
It's appalling, some of the misinformation that has been spread.
Tensions rise as a possible supervised consumption site goes before Richmond City Council.
Teaching you how to be just how to be human again, you know what I mean? Because down here, life can be really hard.
We check in with those involved in a first-of-its-kind certification program designed to help current and former drug users. Good evening, I'm Tanya Fletcher. Thanks for joining us. Well, following a week filled with controversy, one of Canada's biggest Lunar New Year celebrations descended on Vancouver today. Two community groups that had been axed from the parade wound up participating after all. But as Janella Hamilton reports, they're still waiting for an apology from event organizers.
We are thrilled to stand alongside our greater community to practice culture and welcome the new year in Chinatown together.
Melody Ma says Chinatown's Lunar New Year parade holds deep meaning for her and many others who grew up in Vancouver. But before today, her advocacy group Chinatown Together and 2S LGBTQ+ group Lunar New Year for All were still unsure if they'd be allowed to march. The parade's organizing committee had initially excluded them, later citing concerns over safety and potential political disruption.
As you all know, it's been a roller coaster of a ride this past week.
Ma says the two groups were rejected and then accepted, but shortly after, that invitation was rescinded. After the controversy came to light, organizers said the groups would be allowed to participate after all. But Ma says they never did receive a formal invitation or an apology.
We did get an email of a schedule, so we assume if we got an email of the schedule, we'll show up and see where we are. All the other formally invited organizations received their position in the parade a long time ago. We never heard what our position is until we showed up at the registration desk and we found out we were at the end.
Ma believes the groups were purposely put at the end of the parade, but regardless are grateful to be able to participate.
We are making history today as the first 2S LGBTQIA+ contingent to march in the parade.
Also marching in the parade was Premier David Eby. He says he's glad to see all groups taking part.
You know, this is a community that really understands inclusivity and the need to include everybody because Chinatown was built because people weren't welcome.
We're hopeful that this is a start to a dialogue and a start to a more welcoming and inclusive event for Chinatown.
The parade's coordinator didn't clarify the reasons behind reversing the decision, but says the parade receives hundreds of applications and not every group is given a spot.
Happy New Year!
Janella Hamilton, CBC News, Vancouver.
One person is in the hospital after a fire at an apartment complex in East Vancouver early this morning. The flames sparked up at this three-story building on Nanaimo Street and 45th Avenue around 6 a.m. Firefighters managed to keep the blaze contained to the one suite while residents in the rest of the building were evacuated. One person was found in the unit in serious condition. The housing provider is now working with residents dealing with smoke or water damage. The cause of this fire is still under investigation. There has been strong public backlash to the possibility of a new supervised drug consumption site in Richmond. Early last week, City Council began discussions around a potential site near Richmond Hospital. Those for it say the site will help address concerns about public drug consumption and help those who want to end their addiction.
Where we can get these people into some type of contact with health practitioners so we can enter them into counseling, treatment, at the point in their life where they're just fed up with what is going on and move them along into the treatment aspect of what's needed in the continuum of care.
Those against the proposal worry it will attract more drug users to the community. Tomorrow, the city will host a public consultation. More than 40 people have already signed up to speak. An online petition against the site has garnered 16,000 signatures. It is a course that was crafted in response to Vancouver's worsening toxic drug overdose crisis. The Street Degree in Overdose Prevention is a first-of-its-kind certification program. It teaches current and former drug users skills like how to administer naloxone. Sharia Chantry introduces us to some of the people involved in the program.
I've been dead before. That's how bad it's been, right? But I was brought back by the paramedics.
A recovering substance user, Sean Graves says naloxone has saved his life more than once. Now, as a student in the Street Degree program, he has learned how to use it himself.
I make a point of freeing up my schedule to make sure that I at least go to make the course.
Classes are held 2 days a month at Japanese Hall in Vancouver's downtown east side.
As an instructor, you really get to see people gaining confidence and skills and getting good at using the tools that they need to use.
In 2023, there were upwards of 2,500 suspected illicit drug deaths in the province. That is equivalent to 7 deaths a day. The Street Degree program is part of BC's toxic drug emergency response. Since 2017, more than 1,100 people have taken the course. Nearly 80 people have graduated after fulfilling 20 hours of training. Many who take the course work at overdose prevention sites.
It's been really successful. People really enjoy taking it. It's very useful. There's obviously real-world application. It's very practical. There are employment opportunities, and it's a great asset to the camp as well to have those skills.
Start working with us as a casual educator, end up managing at a different OPS and just or become a drug checking expert.
One of them is Crab Park resident Clint Redden, who has worked at a number of overdose prevention sites.
It gives you more confidence to go and apply to those jobs, right? And they're definitely more likely to hire you if you got the degree.
Well, it means a lot to people to get the degree. People often want their photo taken with the degree. They want to send it to their families.
The program also teaches broader skills such as conflict resolution, public speaking, and life lessons.
Just teaching you how to be how to be a human again, you know what I mean? Because down here, life can be really, really, really hard.
Sharia Chantry, CBC News, Vancouver.
17 landmarks across BC are shining red tonight to spread the word about the province's free and confidential phone service, which is seeing roughly 20% more calls than last year. 211 operators offer resources from everything from questions about your taxes and requests for financial assistance to helping people find affordable housing options.
If you're struggling, don't do it yourself. Ask for help. It's wise and it's strong, and 211 is there to support you.
Vancouver City Hall and BC Place are both lit up right now. United Way says they've seen the biggest increase in calls about immigration, human rights, and employment resources. Call takers average 50,000 connections per year, and services are offered in 240 languages. After an unsuccessful injunction hearing in December, the Ladysmith Maritime Society is still trying to maintain a presence at its local marina. The economic arm of Tsimenas First Nation took over the marina as of January 1st. Our Claire Palmer went to Ladysmith to find out what's changed since.
Ladysmith is home to the self-proclaimed friendliest marina in the world, but now it's the subject of an ongoing struggle over marina entities. The provincial water lot lease, previously held by the city and granted to the society, has been transferred to the Ladysmith First Nation, following a reconciliation agreement with the province, forcing the Ladysmith Maritime Society out years ahead of when their lease was supposed to end in 2029.
We have been very welcoming of the idea and absolutely had no issues with the transfer of the lease to the First Nation. Ultimately, the lease wasn't transferred, the lease was cancelled.
Weefelsput explains the society isn't against reconciliation or even the lease transfer, but it takes issue with being left out of the conversation about the future of the marina. Weefelsput's son, Silas, says he wants to see the public continue to have access to the marina, which he says has been built with thousands of hours of volunteer work since the 1980s.
No, we were trying really to become involved and to start thinking about the future of the marina together with the First Nation. But wherever we turned, we were not basically invited to the table.
As a community member who spends time down there, it's been difficult to understand the intricacies and nuances of what is involved, from switching from a public community dock to a private-owned enterprise. So there's limited understanding in that transition piece, and that is what's been most confusing.
The nation has plans to redevelop the whole area from Transfer Beach on as a mini Granville Island. The Weefelsputs say they just want to see more community consultation. For now, the Society is reimagining how they can operate going forward.
And we'll continue to operate under our mandate to protect and provide access to the water. It will just take a different shape and form as we had in the past.
The province, nation, and Mayor of Ladysmith were not available to comment. The Society is still able to operate the Maritime Museum, the Heritage Boat Shed, and 20 feet of moorage space paid for by the town. Claire Palmer, CBC News, Ladysmith.
A handful of organizations have combined forces to clean up 700 kilometers of marine coastline. This weekend, they've zeroed in on the northern Discovery Islands near Campbell River.
We have enough styrofoam that we figure to fill an Olympic-sized swimming pool. About 15 tons of steel off the beach from various sources. We plastic, lots of barrels.
They say the garbage is covered with teeth and claw marks, an indication of the wildlife trying to eat it. A major polluter is believed to be the styrofoam beneath some docks that break down over time. Up to 85% of the material collected is recycled or upcycled. The BC government is forking over $10.5 million in provincial funding to the organizations behind the cleanup. A Vancouver Island man has taken up an unusual hobby. He's making coffins and selling them on Facebook Marketplace. It started after the untimely death of his son out of country. Unable to help with funeral preparations at the time, he found coffin making helped him work through his grief. Take a listen.
It's only in the living room because I moved it out of the porch. I had 2 coffins in my porch for 5 years. My dear wife, who doesn't quite share my interest in coffins, said one day, "Philip, that's enough, they have to go." I'm Philip Thompson, I'm a regular family guy. I do woodworking. I'm also a commissioner. I can tell you about why I started making coffins. When I was in Canada, I received the news from England that my son had died. He was 20. Nathan Paul Thompson is his name. And it was traumatizing for the whole family. By the time I got to England for the funeral, everything had been arranged, so I had no part in it. A week later, 10 days later, I was back in Canada on my grief journey. Long story short, I thought, I still need to do something for Nathan. I just came to this realization that people who are losing loved ones would love to have a coffin that was made locally. Perhaps they know the coffin maker and they can participate. I really felt strongly that was the missing word for me. I could not participate in the planning of my own son's funeral because of the distance. And so when I designed this coffin, I designed it with big screws on the corners that you physically can handle yourself, and that's a strong participation in the process of putting your loved one in a coffin and of sealing it. I think this is the 4th one, and the first 2 were sold to a funeral director in Victoria. The 3rd one was sold to a lady because she wants to use that coffin to talk about her own end of life to her family. And this is the final one I have to sell now. And it's come time to sell it for me because I think my own story of bereavement, losing my son at an early age, has now rolled on to a point where I can let this coffin go. I've worked through my grief and love with my hands.
Well, bakers of all flavors flocked to downtown Vancouver to try out for the 8th season of CBC's Great Canadian Baking Show. Competitors were asked to bring a home-baked item to show off their design technique and creative flavor mixing prowess. We caught up with a few applicants vying for one of the coveted spots in the competition.
You're always curious when you've done something for a long time. And I've baked a really long time. A lot of people think it's really good. I
think I would do really well aside from bread week. I'm not that great at making bread. I'm not a very technical baker. I'm a very creative baker.
It was a last minute decision. I woke up at 7 o'clock in the morning and I was like, okay, let me just go and bake. We are a big fan of the show. We watch it every season.
It'll be a challenge. I think if I get on, it'd be a challenge, but one that I'm super willing to face and very excited about.
Coming up after the break, tonight's Super Bowl, hosted in the city of gambling, set historic records for sports betting. We'll tell you, yes, who won, and also this story coming up next. Stay with us. Welcome back. In international news, the U.S. has issued its strongest warning yet against Israel's planned Rafah offensive in Gaza. President Joe Biden says it should not go ahead without a credible plan to protect civilians. More than 1 million Palestinians are now in Rafah. Many fled from northern Gaza. Biden's warning came over the phone with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who hours earlier told U.S. television that the ground offensive would not be reconsidered. He insists an evacuation plan is being drafted and repeated that to Biden. Several European leaders also voiced reservations today, and Hamas said a Rafah invasion would end hostage talks. Donald Trump was roundly condemned today after comments touching on NATO at a campaign rally last night. Trump suggested U.S. forces should not help defend NATO allies who haven't fulfilled defense spending commitments, and that if he were president, he would tell the attacker to do whatever it wanted. Today, the UN Secretary General said such comments undermined the security of all NATO countries, including the U.S. The White House called the comments appalling and unhinged. Elsewhere overseas, final results have been announced from Thursday's election in Pakistan amid mounting controversy over the delay. Candidates backing former Prime Minister Imran Khan have won the most seats. Court rulings compelled them to run as independents. Khan himself is jailed, convicted on charges that he says were political. Both his bloc and Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif's party are now aiming to form a government. Both would need coalition partners, as neither will have a parliamentary majority. To Britain, and King Charles made his first public outing since Buckingham Palace announced his cancer diagnosis. Charles and Camilla are spending time at the Royal Sandringham estate. Today they were attending church. Charles issued a message yesterday expressing gratitude for the support he's received since the diagnosis. The palace has not said what form of cancer Charles is fighting. Well, this year's Super Bowl was decided in about the most exciting way possible, in overtime.
First and goal. Mahomes flings it. It's there! Hartman!
That is the winning touchdown. The final score, Kansas City Chiefs 25, the San Francisco 49ers 22. It capped a game that saw the lead seesaw in the fourth quarter, only to have the fourth quarter end tied. For the Chiefs, it is their third title in the last 5 years. Well, tonight isn't just about football. Wagering is also center stage. Big bets were placed on everything from the final score to off-field celebrity encounters. As Quibina Duro shows us, Las Vegas is embracing it as the gambling capital establishes itself as a pro sports city.
For these fans in Montreal ready to watch the Super Bowl, they have more than team spirit on the line.
I think I'm gonna bet on Kansas because I think there is more experience. I think they play better.
Cash, and lots of it, riding on this game. According to the American Gaming Association, nearly 68 million Americans, nearly 1 in 4 adults, are expected to bet a record amount, $23.1 billion. The site for this year's Super Bowl, a gambler's dream, Las Vegas. The city is also in the midst of a transformation into a pro sports capital, with more pro teams, including the NHL and NFL, and soon the NBA and Major League Baseball, and a state-of-the-art stadium to host high-profile events.
Leagues and teams, I think, have an onus to create an avenue where individuals can gamble for fun, but at the same time, there's safety involved, where you're protecting consumers.
Of course, not all the bets are about the action on the field.
Well, I heard like you can bet on the color of the Gatorade that will be like spread on the winner's coach. So I guess I would bet on that because it's a funny bet, and you don't need too many skills, I guess. It's just luck.
Other bets on Usher's halftime performance and a possible post-game kiss between Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift.
I would definitely bet on the Taylor Swift kiss, for sure.
I would bet that her boyfriend's winning. Full-on Taylor Swift's boyfriend's winning.
Eloise Julien is a new football fan, but she's been a Swiftie for the past 15 years.
You know what? I think it's funny that people are betting on which dress she's going to be wearing, you know? I like it. I think it attracts people more. Like it's kind of making it more interesting.
Even Drake got in on the action. He put down a $1.1 million bet in favor of the Chiefs. On social media, he said he couldn't bet against the Swifties. Cubino Duro, CBC News, Montreal.
You're looking at a live shot up Cambie Street with City Hall in the background. Well, a soggy Sunday will give way to a drier work week ahead with sunshine on the horizon. I'll time out the 5-day forecast next.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox.
On February 28th, join CBC Vancouver's Benit Brach at the Alumni UBC webinar, Empower Gen Z in the Workplace. The panel will discuss this generation's expectations on work-life balance, values, job market adaptation, and more. And BC Today is the call-in show where British Columbians make their voices heard. And now you can watch it on TV, stream on CBC Gem, and hear it on CBC Radio 1 and CBC Listen.
And time for a look at the 5-day forecast. We'll look at those current temperatures right now and heading into our overnight hours. Fairly mild across the province. In fact, very standard seasonal temperatures and conditions. We've still got the remnants of this latest system still making their way through across, especially southern BC. That means we'll see some leftover flurries. It could come down as freezing rain, some freezing sleet as well. And so do watch out wherever you are, especially in those higher elevations on the roads through the mountain passes especially. Here's our precipitation forecast. You can see we are drying up for the next few days. Monday, we'll see any of those lingering showers kind of move on out. And then we'll see lots of sunshine across most of BC, a high pressure system settling in, and then just creeping up towards the end of the week through Thursday, maybe Friday, we might see some more rain on the way. But here's the forecast for tomorrow. And today, in fact, the high in all of Canada was Saturna Island at 9 degrees. As we said, some more showers will make their way through, especially the southern interior and through the Kootenays as well and the lower mainland tomorrow. But those should, for the most part, resolve themselves by morning into the afternoon as well. That's when we'll see those breaks of blue sky. So some showers, some snow flurries, just depending on how cold it is come first thing in the morning. 5-day forecast for Vancouver. Again, that sunshine is set to return. We'll supposed to hit the double digits by Tuesday. And then our overnight lows right around the freezing mark, right about seasonal for this time of year. And that is your late news for this Sunday, February 11th. For news anytime, anywhere, download the free CBC News app. And you can always find us online at cbc.ca/BC. Thank you so much for watching this weekend. Good night.